Welcome to a new edition of I should say this week with Retro, a weekly probably ain't the appropriate term. Got to work on my branding, but I am sylabdul, joined by Retro Nerd Girl here. We are back after the Labor Day hiatus. Plus, how are we doing?
Oh, really good. It's just been a very, very long, extended summer. We're still in the middle of summer, it feels like. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of good. But yeah, doing really well, really well.
That's great. That's
How about
great.
you?
No, definitely. Much needed break around the holiday,
Oh,
quote unquote
yeah.
holiday, and that's something I'm really going to be implementing more. Where you kind of take that week to recharge, and or if I travel or something like that. So that was much needed. Now it's like back to the grind, and
That's right.
and retro's back. So we're full steams ahead here now.
Mhm.
Coming back, we're kind of coming at a time. It's not really a box office battle, so we're just gonna go straight to a story that
Hmm.
you picked. That's kind of
Yes.
hinting towards the box office as well. The Beetlejuice 2, the sequel film. It talks
Yes.
about how that budget. And this was interesting. Me and you talk about budgets all the time, where
Oh, yeah.
that's the formula, right? And
Yeah.
so, according to this article here, they're saying they pretty much slashed the budget, and it's working out for them. It appears.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, originally they said that this was this is the part that blows my mind. Beetlejuice 2 was originally slated to be streaming on Max. And this is a mistake that they've been doing in the past for a lot of these, what I call legacy sequels. You got 30, 40 years later, we're doing a sequel of a big IP movie, and we're just going to dump it on Amazon, or we're going to just dump it on Max. And I think that is the most inappropriate way to treat a legacy type of material. You need to have this on the big screen. I think, like, is it Beverly Hills Cop, the sequel that they did? They just
Yeah,
dropped it somewhere. That could have really been great for people to see in the movie theaters. Um,
yeah.
but also to making a quality film that's worthy of being in the theaters is also too uh, very
That
much
it's
a big
been
part of
comments too
yeah.
on the point of the Beverly Hills Cops where people
Mhm.
said like this was a missed opportunity for a theatrical
Yeah,
thing. Streaming's fine, and like I said, we love our streaming. We love when Netflix comes out with stuff, or I've been on Amazon a lot lately. I don't know why. I just
yeah,
but it's like um missed opportunity though for like I said legacy type things. That's got to be on
yeah,
big screen.
yeah. That should be on the big screen. And the Roadhouse movie. That I mean, that was another one that I felt just didn't get its due. You know,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
and so we have this. Situation where the deal was that if Tim could keep the movie under $99 million, that they would put it in theaters. But if it was over, then they would stream it. I'm just kind of like lost on this
Kind of
idea.
backwards.
Yeah, that you should if you spend more money, then that should be the thing that you put in theaters. So
Right.
um, I suppose that may be the core of the problem over at Warner Brothers, but thankfully Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi was there to make those demands. Like, hey, okay, we know Tim Burton, and we think that he would
Mhm.
be much better on screen. He wouldn't go for this if it was not going to be on the big screen. And so they
Mhm.
worked out a deal that was both satisfactory to Warner Brothers and Tim Burton. And I believe it's over 2 million by now in
Yeah. So
theaters.
at this time, it's over 270 million. Is making at the box office. Is getting most of it from domestically. So it's that nostalgia for Americans. They're
Yeah.
showing up to see this film. Um, as far as globally,
Hmm.
they're kind of behind, but that was expected. They don't have that reverence probably that domestically has, and so with that,
Yes.
with the budget under 100 million, and you have again over 270 million, it's definitely a win for this right now.
Yeah, I mean, because when you're talking about films that deal with like ghosts and things like that and witchcraft, it's not going
Hmm.
to do well in a country like China. That's
Hmm.
part of the subject matters that they don't want to that they don't put on screen on
Right.
in their theaters. That's one of the there are like certain rules to certain films in not that that people in China will not be able to see this film. It just is one of those movies they don't allow
Not
to
really,
be
yeah,
in
drawn
their
to.
theaters. Yeah, based on their beliefs, and so it's one of those things. I think it should do well in the UK. It should do in like other like English speaking countries. But as far as this is definitely an American like
Oh yeah, for
franchise,
sure.
and I think it's playing upon the nostalgia as far as like what people are saying about the film. I haven't heard glowing remarks about it, but I haven't also heard terrible remarks either. Just
Well,
like
yeah.
it's certain certain complaints, but not anything egregious.
Yeah. Cinema Score, I believe, had it at a B plus, so that's kind of
Mhm.
as low as you would want a film,
Yeah.
especially if you get like a front loaded opening, which it had a pretty good opening, and so
Hmm.
me seeing it, I would say my thoughts is you definitely had to be in on the original franchise. Like if you come into this code, it's gonna be some weird, quirky stuff that you're like, what's going on?
What's
Like this
happening
ain't,
here?
I don't know about this, right? So if you are kind of on board with just that Tim Burton isms with the first one, then
Yeah,
this film is for you. If for some reason you're like, he's a little bit too weird, you're gonna think this film is kind of out there. You
yeah,
know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's found its audience though. It recaptured those that grew up watching it or knew of it, and it's making its money. So yeah.
yeah, and it kind of speaks of a certain kind of thing to do with like the goth of like the late 80s and 90s that that the Edward Scissorhands gothy kind of
Mhm.
thing. And so it may be fully out of fashion, but also it definitely for those of us who went through it, lived through it, definitely will be member berries for everybody. And maybe even it'll pick up a couple of new fans along the way. But I loved how they treated this with respect, putting it out in the theaters, and they kept the budget low. So that means even with a domestic, if it was just up to domestic, they're going to make a nice little profit.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not, I wouldn't say all of Warner Brothers, but definitely the film um department as far as with Michael and Pam, they're really
Mhm.
doing a great job.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, great point with the domestic side of it. With it having over 270 million, 200 of that is domestic.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. So
they've
that
already made a profit. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they've already done the work is already done. It's great.
Yeah. So that's good for them, right? Good for nostalgia. And I guess speaking of nostalgia,
Mm.
you had another story that we're going to touch on. Oh, we have a video. Oh,
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. You can see it. You can feel it. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth?
all right. So
Yeah.
Matrix anniversary, 25th
Wow.
25th anniversary. Like I can't even believe that. And
Yeah.
September 19th and 22nd. This is back in theaters. That's the story, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be for a limited time back in theaters. And again, I love the stories of bringing some of these old movies to the big screen, so that way, like if you've seen it before, you've or like I've never seen The Matrix in the theater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if I was able to get to a theater, that would be a fantastic experience for me, or anybody who
Hmm.
really took a liking to that first incredible movie and wanted that movie experience of seeing it in the theater. This is also another opportunity to introduce new people to this franchise in a fresh way. That's like, hey, this is what it was like to sit in the theater and see this. Um, yeah, I'm always in support of this kind of thing. Like, let's have some of
Hmm.
these classic movies in theaters.
Hmm. For sure, for sure. Like
Yeah.
I said, this be a nice experience in the theaters, and I just, I can't believe it's been 25 years. But I remember when this first came out. It was just like, oh, what is the Matrix? That was the marketing, right? Like, what is the
Yes.
Matrix?
What is the
And it
Matrix?
just it captured the whole world. And this will again remind people of that franchise. I think it's worth going back to theaters for that. And then
Yeah.
it will remind people that like that last crappy one, that's not the Matrix. Like this this is the Matrix right here. So
Yeah, no, it's I think also too in original run, it a lot of people did not get the experience of seeing it in the theater. It was really through replays on HBO. There were like tons and tons of you know, uh, video sales that people really got to see the Matrix
mhm.
for the first time is all usually on like either video or on HBO, and it was sort of like, oh wow, I had no idea this movie was going to be like this because I
Mhm.
remember seeing the ads for the Matrix and just saying, what is this movie? What are they doing? And was blown away by actually seeing it, but I did, I saw it on HBO. I didn't get to see it um, in the theater, which is a big regret of mine. So I think a
Mm.
lot of people, after seeing the movie and seeing how good it was, I think this is just great. This is an opportunity for those guys too.
Yeah, for sure, sure. So we always applaud theatrical viewing. So if possible, everyone get out there and get a screening of this. Now, there's a film that I guess a lot of people didn't get a screening of. You got this
Oh
Borderlands
man,
project here. Now, I wasn't too familiar with the game and everything, so I'm just kind of behind with what this franchise is. But just looking at the names attached to it, I thought, hey, I mean, okay. But it ended its theatrical run making 31 million globally, and
yeah.
the budget was 115. Like, ouch.
Yeah, that is pretty rough. 150 million dollars. The only like, oh my goodness, that is just embarrassing. Um,
Yeah.
the problem really came down to initially, really, the first thing was the casting. It the casting was just all wrong for this project, and you have so many big names, but not one of them could really lead anybody to go to the theater to see this because it wasn't really catering to the audience that had been playing the games. I don't know
Mm,
what audience it was geared towards, but it wasn't them. And then for the people who did go to see the movie, it had to do with the story and that they had veered away from the lore, and that was the second nail in the coffin. So yeah, this
mm.
was just bad choices all the way down to even the budget, spending $115 million on just buying the name of the franchise and
Right.
giving fans absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, like you said, having a cast. Well, first off, I mean, Kevin Hart. You're thinking, okay, this is a comedy. I don't know, like what's going on with this film. But Kate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Oscar-winning Jamie Lee Curtis in this
Yeah,
film. So
yeah.
I think probably everyone just kind of showed up and collected that check for this one because it didn't find any kind of audience. And I hate the whole stigma with video game films because I thought we got past that with Sonic franchise and Super
Yeah.
Mario Brothers, where you can do these video game films and it satisfy the core audience, and then if it crosses over, great.
Yeah.
This film satisfied no one, so I don't. It's like, why are we making films like this still?
Yes, and I think the problem is Hollywood saying, okay, this is a successful game, so how can we make it into a Hollywood movie? And that's the opposite of what they should really be doing, because the idea of serving fans is is somehow a horrible thing. Is a horrible thing to serve the fans of any franchise. So, even just fundamentally, the actors that are in this are not even the correct age. And which is, I don't have a problem. I think was really excited when I saw the posters, the first posters for this. I was like, oh, this is cool, gonna be cool. But when I discovered about, like, okay, this is what the character is supposed to be, this is what the age of these characters are supposed to be, and I was like, okay, well, I could look at this as a movie all on its own for its own merit, right? But for the people that they're trying to get, really, which is they're writing on the name of Borderlands and the fans that played the game. You've got to serve that community.
Exactly.
And they didn't. They did their own thing. Oh, we're gonna change it all. We're gonna, and you can't do that with names
Well, and we
and
learned.
properties.
I thought that lesson was learned.
Yep.
I was mentioning the Sonic franchise where they tried to do their own style of Sonic.
Yep.
I think they tried to copy the Pikachu movie or something,
Oh,
and the core fans revolted. They had this ugly Sonic with the bad teeth, and Paramount was like, "Okay, my bad, right? Like,
yeah.
like you wanted to look like the game." They start from scratch and recreate the Sonic model, and then made fun of themselves in the film. They put the ugly Sonic in the film, and I was like, "You get it, right? Like, just satisfy the core fans." And Sonic, the
Yeah.
franchise, is making money. They got the trilogy, the third film coming out this December. It's going to do great. You got
Yes.
the spinoff Knuckles. So listen to the audience. Again, this audience, I'm not a Borderlands, I never played the game, but
Yeah.
when I saw that the core gamers were mad, I was like, okay, I have no reason to watch this.
Right. I mean, they are the ones you're trying to get to the theater based on the name. It means nothing to me that there's a Borderlands. What is that to me? I don't identify.
Right.
And I was really excited. I was like, oh, so they're using older actors for this action movie. I want to see this. It's not that people don't want to see older actors do cool things. We
Right.
just want to see, it's very upsetting that they didn't even have a way of satisfying the audiences with the storyline. They could have come up with a clever storyline, like there was a time machine or something interesting that fit within the world, and they really strayed away from anything to do with really the storyline of the lore that people loved about the game. And so,
Yeah.
like, that was your one, that was that was the assignment. That was the
Yeah.
assignment. And
You had one job, as the kids say.
yeah, you had one job.
And they messed it up.
And
So
yeah,
yeah.
it's sad. It's sad, but I hope that this isn't a message to Hollywood that, older actors don't work in action movies. It's just you put too many weird things in a a, a, a franchise that didn't work. That, you did not adhere to what it was that the fans really wanted from this kind of a property.
Yeah, exactly. Let that be a lesson. This is going to be a lesson. It has to be learned like every generation, I guess. So someone else will make this mistake again. But Another property we've been talking about theaters kind of shifting to streaming, back to streaming here with
Yes.
Netflix. Terminator Zero. Now I haven't got a chance to see this yet, but I've
Oh,
been hearing good word of mouth with this Terminator.
oh my God. Still, you really need to watch this. I wouldn't recommend it if it wasn't really good and maybe even
Okay.
awesome. It's fantastic. So I thought for sure that the Terminator franchise after Dark Fate was terminated, and it's not. These guys unterminated the Terminator franchise.
Unterminated. Is that a term? Let me look this up here. Unterminated. Okay. Okay, we got you. Go ahead.
And at this, they just did a fantastic job. It's a really great story. It's a series on Netflix, and it really revives the entire franchise. Not just it's not just good enough for you to watch this show, but it also revives the franchise in
Mm,
total, which is like wow. It really puts things in a different perspective and really worked
interesting.
for storytelling. Now, I have to give you a little background. Terminator 1984 is my favorite movie of all time.
It's the
Um,
original, right?
the original movie, it
Mhm.
is really it's got just about everything: action, adventure, sci-fi, a love story. It's just great. And so
Mm.
I'm really been rooting for this franchise to continue in some way, shape, or form. I thought that there was some really good ideas that could be expounded upon, and this particular series has restored my faith in that we could have more Terminator projects in the future. And also, I believe that there's a rumor going around, and maybe it's not so much rumor that um, James Cameron is working on
Yeah.
project. And so that's interesting. Maybe, this has revived his creative juices for something to do with the Terminator. And like you said, this is just really good stuff. I think you'd like it. It's in depth. And it gets a little hardcore too. It gets a little hardcore, just
Oh.
just like Terminator should
Right.
be.
Like it should, right? I did
Yeah.
hear about this, those the strong anime angle to
Yes.
it, so it could
Yeah.
push the envelope. And the James Cameron, that is a very interesting report floating around where he has a secret Terminator project
Ah, I
that he's
can't wait.
working on. So
Yeah.
that, yeah, James Cameron, like he takes his time, he puts his mind to it, and
Yes.
puts it together. That's you already know that's gonna be amazing.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. It was really interesting because I heard about it before I saw the series, and I was like, "Oh, no, not no, don't do it, James, don't do it." And then I saw the series, and I was like, "Oh, yes, do it."
Do it right. Typical fan right there. Like, no,
Yes.
no, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. First, I just thought, "No way, why are they doing this?" Because, you know, after Dark Faith, it just really um, killed the franchise. It really did. It just
Mhm.
put a nail on the coffin. And to hear that James is working on something, I was like, James, no, you've had such a good record so far. What are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
it
definitely.
turns out
Mhm,
like he may be onto something. Especially
mhm.
if after seeing this is definitely again restoring my faith in the franchise. So I'm so happy, and I hope you get a chance to see it.
So I have to watch it now. It's like it's no, I can't get through another show with you until I watch it now. So that will be in the rotation
Yeah.
this weekend. Terminator
Yes, and
Zero.
it is
Again,
very grown
yeah,
up. So no kiddies around when you
put the
watch
kids
this one.
away.
It's
Okay.
hardcore. They go hard.
All right. So streaming on Netflix now. So I got to catch up
Hmm.
for sure. Now, um, shifting gears here, we got this article here that I need to pull up with Lucasfilm sued over the digital likeness. This has been a kind of a long ongoing story here, right, Retro? With this, so
Yes.
they're finally sued.
Well, they were in court last year, and it got
Mm-hmm.
um, they were trying to um, Disney was trying to get it thrown out of court, and the judge was like, no, and they're still trying to see if this can be thrown out of court, and it won't. The issue is that there's a man by the name of Kevin Francis who worked with Peter Cushing and was a friend of his, and he claims that he has a signed agreement from Cushing where he pretty much said, "Hey, if anyone is to reproduce my appearance, let it be with your authorization."
Mm.
And this is like unbeknownst to many people, and also Lucasfilm, and so they actually went on ahead and used um, Peter Cushing's likeness for the Rogue One film, and which I didn't think was needed. I honestly didn't think they needed to have um,
Right.
his image in there, or I I felt like they could have had him have his back to us and not really show him. To be
Would
honest.
you, not to interrupt you, would you have been okay with like a brief recast since it wasn't like a big role in this film?
Well, that is coming. That's exactly where I'm kind of theorizing this,
Mm.
um, because like I was just saying with the Borderlands, that I hope that Hollywood gets the right assumption. I believe that Disney Lucasfilm does not have the right assumption about recasting. They don't
Mm.
understand that recasting is okay. Like Gina Carano's character, they were gonna fire her, fine, but her character, she could have been recast. They didn't recast.
Yeah.
So now, we have Peter Cushing character, Grand Moff Tarkin, and he could have just been. They had a guy who looked like him, sound like him. Just use that guy. You could also like shoot him from behind and just use shadows. You don't have to actually show us everything. They also did the same thing. The Princess Leia in that movie looks so weird. The uncanny valley was just reeking, and it's for Star Wars. Rogue One was actually a really good film. I had my critiques about it, but the biggest one was the whole um regeneration, CGI character reproductions of real people. I thought it was really uh it just made it an eyesore in the film. And so that is
Mm.
an issue I think Lucasfilm is going through. But Lucasfilm actually has a contract with Peter Cushing's estate, and they
Okay.
actually paid them uh, 28,000 pounds in order to get to have the ability to use his image for that film. And uh, there is so this is kind of a strange situation. So in court, really, they're going to have to Lucasfilm is going to have to prove that that was really all that they need, or that they didn't know that there was another um, person who had the rights to Peter Cushing's likeness, and that there could be multiple owners of a person's image, which
Mm.
is sort of, what does this, Peter Cushing's estate have to say about this guy, Kevin Francis, owning his or having authorization over his likeness? So that's kind of a weird thing to just like
Yeah.
say, hey, to your friend, hey, I just don't, can do you have I want you to have control over my likeness when I'm gone, and not leave that to your estate. So this is a weird one. It's kind of a
Yeah.
weird situation, but it's also bringing up that idea that, hey, we could have just recast and that would have solved this problem, instead of, bringing up these icons and just trying to recreate everything with CGI, digitally, um, remastering people basically, and that is
Right.
also a problem, I think, with Hollywood. This was some of the things that they were having an issue with, the digital likenesses, um, question, and so that's why in court they did not throw this out, because this is a question worth having. uh,
Yeah.
this is a conversation worth having, I believe, is like, who owns the right to a person's image, and does it matter, that his estate has the rights, or does it matter that this, guy Kevin Francis has the rights or the authorization? He also is seeking, 50 um 50,000 pounds, which is
Oh,
about
really?
60, sorry, it's about 650 US dollars. Oh, sorry, 250,000 US dollars.
1,000. Yeah. Because
Not,
pounds is pretty. Yeah.
yeah, and that's
Pretty
not
hefty.
really a lot of money. We're not talking about millions of dollars.
That's not a millions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really concerned with Disney not just wanting to give this guy the money. They're like, we're gonna fight you in court. So they're, and which could cost more than, than it's
Jeez,
probably
Disney.
worth. Yeah.
You make Disney sound so evil. Like
Yeah, like,
we're
we're gonna
gonna
fight you
fight
in court for
you. Big
well,
bad
it
Mickey.
may be just the principle, like, hey, we're not gonna pay anybody, we
Right.
think we're in the right for this, and we're just not good.
Hmm.
We're willing to spend the same amount of money to protect our
Yeah.
rights.
Because we're gonna do it again. I think that's what that means. So we'll see.
You're right. You're right.
We'll see what evil Disney does. I tell you, you just got the
There.
real kind of real sinister here. But so to shift away from Disney for a moment, let's go
Mhm.
back to Netflix. Because thinking of sinister, if I had let's say if I had a company and I want to put someone as CEO, I'm starting to think I'd never want Ted Sarandos to speak for my company because this guy, he's co-head of Netflix. He's been saying some of the weirdest quotes lately, like just out of nowhere. Now he's
Yes.
co-CEO of Netflix along with Greg Peters, I believe is the other guy.
Yeah.
But this Sarandos guy, he just has some of the worst quotes ever. I don't know how he gets in these situations. I know he means well, and Netflix is
Yeah.
winning the streaming war, but this guy, the theatrical releases are inefficient. That sounds so smug. That sounds just so. It's like, bro, like let's get like a publicist.
Yeah.
But he was speaking at the London convention recently,
Yeah.
and he does make some good points though in
Yeah.
this.
Mhm.
Now, just initially when you saw the quote, or I'm sure you went through the article and got the real quote, but
Yeah.
did this put you off at all? Like, hey, guy, like Ted, calm down
I
a
thought
little
it
bit.
was, well, at their, I mean, actually, he had more, like you said, interesting things to say. They picked out the weirdest quote, I think. Just,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just in general. I mean,
See,
who would?
he's like a nice guy, just bad
Yeah, yeah.
quotes.
It's just, yeah. They picked out the weirdest quotes, but I was really connecting this to also the story that we'll probably get to later about the
Mhm.
concentration of UK, that Hollywood is really focusing in on the UK right now, not just for movies, but for streaming. And almost
Mhm.
every company across the line are doing it. And Netflix is not an exception. So it was really interesting to see that they're mostly interested in locking down local things to do uh, with the UK and presenting it to the individuals in UK. I believe it, and
Yeah.
it will be available globally. It's not just, but it's specifically targeting them because this is a big audience. And so
Mhm.
that is basically, I think the one thing that I was gathering from this that was really
Right.
important
Because
for
that
Deadpool.
theatrical, like, he basically like, oh, theatrical release sucks. That's basically what he was saying, right? And it's like, bro, calm down a little bit, Sarando. So, but he does make some good points. So, as far as like you said, the UK, this
Mhm.
international game, I think he said
It's
they only own 25% of their IP that goes to to UK.
mhm.
So they want to grow that market share out there, and then the business model of Netflix is never going to be theaters, and he's double
Yeah,
tripling down on this. That's the
yeah,
business statement of the company itself,
yeah,
is basically anti-theater, uh, unless they have that Egyptian theater they own, and that's just to
yeah,
advertise what's coming out for streaming, for them.
yeah,
So I like the point here. He's saying a fraction of the price of a box set of The Sopranos, you can enjoy the full season, because I think they get those rights internationally to do a lot of the HBO stuff and things like that, with the UK. So you don't have to wait 2 months or for a theatrical run. Which I what do you think with this? He's saying this quote here: audience don't care about just like theatrical windows at all or release windows. Um, I'm slightly. I just think personally, Retro. It's something about a film coming out in theaters and then kind of have that cool down moment, and then you either can buy it or stream it. I don't know. What do you think about that? Because they're going all in with the streaming, obviously, but
yeah,
sometimes it's okay to kind of have that little brief period of like, let's kind of build some anticipation. I don't know. What do you think with that?
yeah. I think this particular uh, piece here, he is definitely a little bit out of touch. A little bit out of touch. Audiences do care about windows. This is
I think
why
so.
people went to go see, Deadpool and Wolverine. Okay, they went
Mhm.
because it was in theaters, and you don't get to see that every. You get to take your kids to see this. It's gonna be the first movie that they see, or one of those moments that they'll never forget. The whole family went to go see this movie, and we all enjoyed it. I
Mhm.
was just talking the other day to my mom about the first time we went to go see Star Wars in the theater in 1977, and it was how much of an impact that made for us. And
Mhm.
that is a window. That was a window in time. And so I don't know, if that, yeah, you do talk about that over dinner. You talk about, what did you see this weekend? Did you go to the movie theater this weekend? That's a water cooler moment.
Right.
There, and maybe he's not familiar with that, with his life experience, but that
Yeah.
is something that a lot of people do have a thing like. I mean, what we don't care about are like bad films. Like nobody's gonna go talk about,
Mhm.
hey, did you see Borderlands Lands this weekend? They're- we're,
Right.
we're gonna be asking, hey, did you see Beetlejuice this weekend? Did you remember seeing Beetlejuice when you were a kid? And that kind of conversation. So yeah, definitely think this. I mean, I wasn't really like, I kind of glossed over it. I was like, well, I don't know what he's talking about here, but no. The juicy part is the UK part.
Right. Yeah. It just when you sent this article, it's like, I'm gonna see what he's saying totally. And I'm like, whoa, I'm like, what's Retro going with this one? Like,
I
this
don't know
guy's
what
crazy.
where they must. I don't know. I think they must bait him with the questions
I
because
think
they.
he falls for it every time. Like, because like us as like consumers and viewers, we like events, like you said with
Yes,
Deadpool,
yes.
Wolverine, and you mentioned
Barbie,
with Star Wars. Yeah, Barbie,
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, those moments, right? And it's
Those
like
were windows. Yeah.
you have Star Wars, and then you wait 2 or 3 years for a new one. Now, we may not want to wait 3 years for stuff, but you can give us like a year in between, kind of give us some
Hmm.
space.
Yeah.
Marvel learned that by they come out with a film, then they did like 2 or 3 series, and then another film. It's like, okay, we're diluting this a little bit. Let's
Hmm.
push this kind of back, separate this. So I'm just Sarandos. He just, I think they tricked him because he sounded kind of.
Yes, they tricked him. Yes. But also, dude, whatever the philosophy is over at Netflix, it seems to be working for them. I think the more that they try to keep, we try to explain what it is, the more confusing it is, because they're doing something different and it's working. And if it wasn't working, then we'd be able to criticize it. But it seems to be working for him, and I'm liking the stuff. Hey, Terminator Zero was on Netflix, and they killed it with that. They killed it that one.
I think his way of thinking and Netflix way of thinking, that's what everyone thought, everything streaming was the future, right? Like when Warner Bros. Did the day and date release in 2021, it ticked off all the producers and directors, but they was like just streaming at home. Like you don't have to even go to the theaters, and that's how Netflix thinks. But Warner Bros., you're beholden to film studios and, globally. So you got to produce to the theaters. You can't just say, no, just stream it. Paramount can't do that. Universal can't do that. So it's just Netflix that can do this. And Tubi. I got to shout out Tubi every chance I get.
Tubi,
that's going to end up being the number 2 biggest streamer in the world. Tubi is, they got the same Netflix plan, but it's ad-based.
And
so
Amazon
getting,
too,
yeah, Amazon, I still look at them as like this unicorn. Like Amazon, you're doing a delivery or streaming, or they just got money to just play with. They're out of control. And,
I love their model as well. And they do, I do sometimes feel though that some of their movies should be on the big screen and have a theatrical run, but hey, you can't win them all. But they do have a knack of like being able to produce a lot of content specific to Amazon that is really good. Like The Boys have been doing so well on that platform, and shows like that. They're just able to do their own thing, if you will. Which is really cool. I like that. I like
with MGM, Amazon, they are going to do a little more theatrical push too. So I'm gonna give them a little credit with that. I think they're going to do a little more theatrical things, but again, it's still figuring out the model that Netflix started, and no one really could duplicate Netflix. That's just really the more. That's why Serrano could just say wild stuff because he's winning. So. I guess that's the moral of that story. Now
he's like, I think the sky is purple. Now deal with that, guys.
It's like, well,
we're like, I guess so. Money talks.
He does run Netflix. So I guess we can't question him too much. We just kind of just leave him over there by itself. But so that's interesting as far as it's always about the content war. So you have this article here. We're going to pull up as far as Disney to spend $1 billion a year in Europe. Again, this is international thrust. It's global thrust. WBD exec looks to 2026 Max launch in UK. So that's kind of that theme, as you were saying, expanding the footprint in UK.
I mean, that's why I saw these 2 articles and I was like, at
the retro sense, kind of. I'm about to come up with a sound effect.
Wow,
that's gonna happen. Yeah.
I know. Cartoon sound effects. It's so funny because I was like, this is all related. Everybody's doing, they're all doing pretty much a lot of the same moves, but that's because they're seeing trends, and the trend is definitely the hot spot. UK is it, and they were already spending about $1 billion a year because they spent like $5 billion in the last 5 years. And so now it's official. They're just putting a few extra eggs in the UK market. and
Yeah.
they have been looking at Warner Brothers Max and what they're doing with Sky. And that's like
Right.
really going to be something powerful for Max. I think it'll will definitely help their numbers because right now they are struggling with the amount of they just don't have the capacity right now. But
Mm.
the partnership with Sky will open up the the European market to them.
Yeah, because right now with Sky, and we covered them in a few shows where
Mhm. Yep.
we have our UK viewers. They'll probably chime in the
Yes,
comments where
please do.
a lot of the HBO content is really the HBO in a sense licensed it to Sky, and then Sky pushes it. But
Yes.
now what Warner Bros. Discovery wants, they want their Max to be available in the UK, and
Yes.
Sky has been developing original content. We had a couple articles on that because
Hmm.
they're bracing for where okay, it's going to be Max by itself out here, and we may still license with them some, but they have to brace for that. They're going to take a lot of their content and put it on their own Max in UK. So that's going to be interesting to see
Yeah.
if they can grow a footprint. Again, them just like we just talked about with Netflix. Everyone's trying to grow, in the UK. And a recent article as well, the new Paramount. That's
Yes.
something they're looking at UK as well. So there must be a hot spot there out there
It
in London.
is. And for instance, Deadpool and Wolverine was actually filmed at Pinewood Studios in London. So
Hmm.
it's just saying how much we've already been working with, in the UK, and that they're just going to invest more in and do more in those areas too locally as well. So it just looks like we're teaming up with the guys over at the other side of the pond.
Yeah. Hey, it's everyone make money together, I guess is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
theme uh, for this. And I'm sure in the future we'll talk more about the Europe market as well because there's still a lot of growth to be made.
Oh, yeah.
We talk about Disney spending the money. Again, HBO doesn't have quite the face in Europe. I mean, they have the was it I think it's the HBO Spain. It's a no, HBO Go. I think is out
Mm.
there in Europe, and so they want to kind of convert all that Max everywhere. So we'll see. That as they chase those dollars internationally, and maybe that's the key because we all thought everyone gave up
Yeah.
chasing Netflix. Maybe this is the angle if they can get more of an international angle. Maybe that's how you catch up with Netflix.
Well,
We'll,
yeah,
we'll
I
see.
mean, we talk and we did talk about this. The Netflix bandwidth is insanely um, ahead of miles ahead of everyone else. And
Right.
so right now it's everybody trying to cleverly come up with ways that they can reach those markets. And
Hmm.
just Netflix has it already. A lot of these guys are just like, okay, let's do what we can. Let's partner up with some of these other uh,
Hmm.
organizations and see if we can, do something different here. And I
Right.
think the also to make content that is going to attract that audience as well, like I was saying,
Mhm.
local to the UK, not just go in there and push our Americanized product on the people in the UK or in Europe, but actually develop shows in those areas, and that is something that I'm looking forward to seeing, like what shows
Mhm.
and programs and movies will we be seeing from this kind of venture that Hollywood is doing and streamers are
Interesting.
doing.
Interesting. Then we'll see definitely how that
Yes.
translates over, and as the business keeps rolling with that. Now, we'll get to our last story here. A little bonus story that popped
Yes.
up earlier today. I was doing my regular Wednesday show. Getting back on the swing with my my schedule. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, everyone's like, oh, Zach talked about 300 again. And this has been a story. You know,
Yes.
we've heard Warner Brothers kind of, I guess, leak out information about that.
Yeah.
And Zach played it kind of coy, but it felt like he was really going to return for this 300 prequel TV series. Now, the report today is saying Zach has confirmed he's about to start working on this series.
Yeah.
As it says here, we're just getting ready to dive in and get to work on it. It's super fun. I love the world. So, you know, Zach's just very, very general when he says stuff, but it's
Yeah.
like this prequel
Yeah.
series is a go. Zack Snyder is working on it, his team. And so just the big picture here.
Yeah.
This means Zack Snyder, Stone Quarry, him and Deborah, the whole team, they're in business with Warner Brothers. Like that's what this is now. Could this show end up being streamed on something other than Max? That's actually still up in the air. This could be something where they could do a deal with Netflix. They could
Yes.
keep it with Max. They could, it's a couple angles that could go with this retro. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think with
Yeah.
this news? And
I'm excited.
It's official.
Yeah, I'm excited. I did a review, a deep dive on 300, and while I was uncovering some of the history and some of the the backstory for a lot of the characters, there's a lot of story left on the table there that they could totally talk
Mm-hmm.
about and get involved with. I know that there was also a sequel to 300, Rise of an Empire, and that was released in 2014. That movie it wasn't a great movie. It wasn't as great as 300. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't terrible either. But it did do something very unique. It did have like some prequel threads in there and some a little bit more backstory for Xerxes, and I thought that was very interesting. This story is, I believe, they're going to focus on a prequel type thing to
Mm-hmm.
deal with Leonidas before they went to war and sort of their lives as Spartans. If you remember the Joe Rogan talk that he had recently, he did talk about 300, and he talked about the women and the men, the
Mm-hmm.
relationships between them, and the lifestyle of the people there. Now, 300 did go through a little bit of the lifestyle of Leonidas, but in
Mm-hmm.
general, the culture was so savage and so interesting too, a very interesting society. And so he could really have a lot of fun giving us those wonderful images and imagery to do with the storytelling of this
Mm-hmm.
time period. And being that it's a Zach story, it's most likely going to be fantastical and not
Mm-hmm.
completely accurate to what happened, but will probably give you some of the more dramatic parts of what happened.
Right.
And so, historians, don't go there for a historical accuracy, but go there for the excitement of this um, kind of a telling. So I know he'll do this some incredible justice, and
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to see him work on a project like a 300. I even would love to see him do something with Watchmen again. Just
For
that
sure.
comic book look, that stylized look, and you know the dialogue too, that was in 300, that kind of flavor. I just would love to see him get another try at it, and this is it. This is wonderful. I am super super excited. And
Mm-hmm.
this is great because after all that Zach has been through with Warner Brothers, this is really nice that they're able to work again um, on
All
a
right.
project. So,
Well,
um,
Pam Abby, Mike DeLuca, shout out again.
mhm.
They made this possible.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, they're a fantastic team, and I don't work for Warner Brothers. Just FYI, don't know anything about. I don't know anybody over. But I have a lot of serious um criticisms about the company. But when it comes to Pam and Michael, I think those two are just figuring it out. They just know movies. They
Yep.
know directors. Like look at what they did to advocate for Tim Burton.
Tim Burton,
They
yeah.
yeah, they know movies. So I really trust that they are gonna be able to guide Zack Snyder in this and also help him and be an advocate for him.
Oh, yeah,
So
for sure.
let's just hope that things go well, and I can't wait to see this. This is exciting me
Yeah.
quite a bit.
We already know this is the fact when Zach was describing, working on this again, it seemed like he got the juices for this while they were coming up with Twilight of the Gods, the animated series.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
about to drop
yeah.
by the time y'all
Oh, I
see this.
can't
It's
wait to see that.
available
Yeah,
on Netflix. So looking forward to that. And he's like, it's sort of reminded me of Twilight of the Gods, 300. And then if Zach's gonna go in on a project, it's gonna look good. First off, it's gonna
yeah,
look magnificent, and it's gonna be just a lot of cool moments. Like that's just what Zach does. He's gonna
yes,
make sure like this series is gonna have like a WTF moment every week when
yeah,
this drops. So that I'm here for that. Like you said, the historical nature of it. I don't know. Maybe I'll find out about that. But I just want to see Zack Snyder do cool stuff again with the franchise.
yeah,
Most people attach him to. I know a lot of my audience is more DC, but
mhm,
we're all Zack Snyder fans, and
yeah,
300 was the beginning for a lot of us. I mean, some probably did Dawn of the Dead or something like that, but uh, worldwide recognizable, Zack Snyder is known for 300,
yes,
and so
yes.
this only seems right. This only seems right that he's back for that.
Yeah, I would be livid if they were talking about they were going to do a 300 series or any kind of
Yeah,
sequel prequel without him. And
yeah, no way.
I wasn't really excited that they did the rise of an empire without him
Mm,
in that one, and he was sorely missed. And
yeah,
if you've ever seen that movie, yeah, you can see, okay, his imprint is not here. They did a good job trying to copy it there, but
yeah.
he just has a way with his material that I like personally, and so I
Mm,
can't wait. 300 was his, I would say some of his just most iconic stuff,
yes,
and
yes.
just to this day, even the dialogue is like the most impressive, um or just most quotable. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Gerard Butler, some of his best lines, yeah, are
yes,
from 300. You know
yes,
what I mean? It's
yes,
just,
yes,
he's
yes,
a great actor. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And so yeah,
uh,
I can't wait to see what he produces. And yeah, all I have is pure excitement. I love this kind of time period.
mhm,
Um, you know, the Spartans, they're just so interesting, their lifestyle. I did have do a little bit of studying around that time period, and it's so interesting. Their daily life was incredible. The women of Sparta are they're just another like level of incredible. I mean, and so I can't
see a
wait to
theme
see.
here.
Say it again.
I see a theme. I see a theme forming here. Just
Yeah,
everything's
yeah,
gonna be incredible. I think that's what's
yeah.
gonna
Oh,
happen.
I just really can't wait. And
Mhm.
yeah, just pure excitement, just pure excitement.
Yeah. So the question I know, when people come to my platform and Zack Snyder's mentioned,
Hmm.
and or another company or something, in this case Warner Brothers, people are like, okay, wait a minute. Like, okay. So Warner Bros. Got rid of Zack, right? They're doing this new DC with James Gunn. And, you know, Zack, suck at Warner Brothers, right? Was the
Yeah.
theme a couple years ago. Now again with a
Yes.
new regime. So Mike and Pam are very instrumental in this.
Yeah.
Zack and Debbie shout them out every chance they get. They love DeLuca and Abdi. So does this mean Zack working with Warner Brothers again? Restore the Snyderverse? Is that possible through Warner Brothers? Right? Just to be honest, like that question has to come up. You know what I mean? With Zack working with Warner Brothers.
I'm sure people are gonna ask him when he's promoting, while he's promoting the show. They're like, "Hey, is it gonna come back?" Yeah, I'm sure that. But at this point, I think I like to play it a little bit on the side of let's take it one step at a time, because let's see how things go for him. Like if he can make this series and the experience is good, because he's just getting started, he's working with great people, but we don't know if there might be interference or weird stuff. So let's wait to see how he is doing with it, and then I would I would then start to form some sort of connection, because if anything, like he's got this incredible relationship over at Netflix, and even if it meant like him being able to negotiate something over for doing something over at Netflix, that would be great. But at this point, the DC is so in its own pocket with James Gunn that I don't see Warner Brothers bearing from that right now. Right now, like maybe in if there were changes later on, maybe. And so, if there was something detached from DC with James Gunn, I would say sure, but I don't have any like connections that it would happen like right now. We're talking like first, like let's get through, like, can Warner Brothers work together with in true peace and harmony, and will the relationship be good, and then from there, like, hey, what about that idea, and sometimes you have to play these things a little bit more gentler, and because time changes things a lot.
I'm sure Zack, he knows his history with them better than we do as far as what he's been through personally, and Zack, we know for a fact Zack knows this question is going to come up with him working with Warner Brothers. So I don't think he would have agreed to do this or even speak on it without knowing, like, a lot of his fans would be like, hey, like, you back with Warner Bros. What's going on? Like, let's just get something done. So
I think this is
he's prepared for that.
fantastic because it shows us that that he is working on repairing, and there are people over at Warner Brothers who are working on repairing that relationship.
It's a lot of potential for this, and it is exciting that working relationship is at least there, and so that's dialogue, and I think it's only going to end somewhere positive. I think, however this shakes out.
I think so, and Zack is really wanting this. Like, Zack's working behind the scenes to make it all happen. So, I think that he has a master plan he's working on.
Yeah, I think that could be totally separate things. They're like, hey James, go do your thing with your DC world, and that's the greatest thing of DC that it's multiverse, it's different takes. You know, you got Todd Phillips' Joker about to come out. That's so different from what Gunn is going to do. So the possibility is there. And I think it's not dependent on, because I do see, before we close this out, I do see the narrative that, oh, you know, Gunn has to fail and then Zack may have a chance. It's like those two things don't have to be related at all. Like, just if you're not worried about Gunn stuff, just leave him over there. Zack is already working with Warner Brothers again, and you know, something happened.
Yeah. For you know, I everybody, you can have your own thoughts about the way you feel about stuff. I don't want to, you know, preach at anybody ever. Think the way that you want, and I feel like, you know, personally myself, I don't know if I care. I'm sorry.
That's a good attitude, actually.
I don't really care whether his content, you know, ends up being amazing or not.
For sure, the fact that Zack has already agreed to the 300, I'm pretty sure the conversations already has occurred, and now it's just, what does that mean, or how will it be implemented? And you know, so we'll see. We'll definitely see. We are, you know, still a year away from, you know, even the Superman film, and then Reeves, he's going to get a sequel, and so, you know, can they balance all this stuff? You know what I mean?
But,
and so, and
but
if you have Zack in tow, where will he come in at?
Yeah, and people should not get mad at the fans for thinking that the sequel was off, because it looked like that for a while, and it's been a while, and so we're, you know, we're you know, everyone wants to make it seem like fans are crazy for thinking that, you know, hey, it looks like we're not going to get that Reeves film. But you know, according to Reeves, he says, you know, it's coming. So we'll be patient.
Yeah, and a big part with that, you know, they're setting up the sequel they got this Penguin series that's going to drop. By the time people see this, it's going to be coming out on Max on the 19th. So that's the premiere week for that as well. So a lot of stuff to catch up on as far as watching, you know, the Zack Snyder stuff, the Penguin, you got the Agatha. So a lot going on. And I just think it's a place for all these fans to, you know, if you're Snyder fans, I think, you know, we're going to get like a happy ending with that. And, you know, if you like this other stuff, the Reeves world, you know, looks like he's going to, you know, cook as well. So I think it's a place for everybody in this. Zack is doing the 300 prequel. I think that's a good start, you know, overall. So we'll see what happens from there. Definitely a lot of good topics again. The return of a Weekly with Retro, or This Week with Retro. I may adjust that. I'm at the I take these holiday
This
breaks.
Week with Retro, yes.
This Week with Retro sounds a little better. But definitely check out Retro's channel. Links in the description anytime you see or hear. Any watch parties or anything you're planning this weekend?
Oh wow, yes. Well, this week I'm doing an old movie called The Company of Wolves. It's was done in 1985, a really cute horror classic from the 80s. Very unique werewolf transformations in that movie. And then the following week, I'm going to be doing The Shining, which is 1980 horror classic. So we're in horror movie season, and we're doing all the horror movies.
As I always say, check out Retro's channel for her retro content, and then for sure catch her talking about the modern stuff over on this platform. So much appreciated. This Week with Retro. Till next time.
Yes.